Pierce Brosnan's journey to becoming a global icon began with profound loneliness. Born on May 16, 1953, in Drogheda, County Meath, Ireland, Pierce entered the world with a sense of abandonment. His father, Thomas Brosnan, left before he could even form memories of him. Without explanation, without goodbyes, he was gone. His mother, May Smith, was young and ambitious, chasing a nursing career in London. She left Pierce with his maternal grandparents, Philip and Kathleen Smith, when he was barely 1. His childhood was defined by the absence of the two people who should have been his anchors. Though his grandparents were kind and loving, Pierce carried with him the void of his mother's departure. This early sense of rejection shaped him, leaving a deep emotional mark that would stay with him throughout his life. Growing up with uncertainty and change. As Pierce's grandparents grew older, his life shifted once again. He moved from one relative to another, an aunt, then a family friend, never staying long enough to put down roots. While he was never mistreated or neglected, he constantly felt like a temporary guest in other people's homes. He was a boy without a permanent home, a boy whose family was a collection of borrowed places and faces. School offered no escape. At St. Kieran's CBS in Navan, Pierce was always the boy without a father and without the comfort of knowing that someone would be waiting for him when the bell rang. He became observant, learning to anticipate the next source of pain, and began drawing as an escape. Art became more than a hobby. It was a survival mechanism. At a young age, Pierce learned to find solace in creating, the act of drawing offering a temporary escape from a world that seemed indifferent. Reunion with his mother. A new beginning. When Pierce was 10 years old, his mother, May, reappeared in his life. She had remarried and built a career in nursing. She sent for him to join her in London. For Pierce, this was both a reunion and a new chapter. He had grown up with the memories of her absence, and now, suddenly, he was expected to live with her in a foreign city. The relationship with his mother was strained. Though she was technically his mother, Pierce felt like he was meeting a stranger. He described himself as always being on the outside, looking in. It was a feeling that haunted him, even as he navigated his teenage years in a city that spoke the same language but felt entirely alien. London's hustle and bustle contrasted with the quiet town of Navan. And Pierce, still marked by years of being passed between relatives, struggled to find his place. A street performer's first taste of attention. At 16, Pierce enrolled at the Elliott School in Putney, South London. He was academically behind and socially invisible. But London, with its relentless pace, offered something his childhood had lacked: possibility. At 17, he stumbled upon a part-time job as a fire eater in a traveling circus. It wasn't glamorous, nor was it art in the traditional sense, but it offered Pierce something he had never experienced before: attention. For the first time in his life, people were looking at him, recognizing him. He stood before strangers, performing a dangerous trick. And for a fleeting moment, the world noticed his presence. It was a transformative experience for a boy who had spent his childhood feeling invisible. Pierce craved more of this acknowledgement, and this desire to be seen would later become a driving force in his life. Entering the drama center. The journey to acting. At 18, Pierce's journey took a decisive turn when he enrolled in the Drama Centre London, one of the country's most respected acting schools. With no formal training, no connections, and no guarantees, Pierce faced fierce competition. However, the teachers saw something in him, a raw, unquantifiable talent that could not be ignored. The Drama Centre's method was not gentle. It required actors to delve deep into their own histories, to confront their pasts, and to use their personal wounds as fuel for their craft. For Pierce, this was almost too easy. His childhood had provided him with plenty of material. His absent father, his mother's departure, his years of feeling displaced. His emotional scars became the foundation of his acting, and he channeled the pain of his past into powerful performances on stage. By 1975, Pierce had graduated and started performing in theater, earning his stripes in demanding roles. A love story, meeting Cassandra Harris. In 1977, Pierce met Cassandra Harris, an Australian-born actress who would become the love of his life. She was strikingly beautiful, intelligent, and already a working actress. At the time, she was married to businessman Dermot Harris, but Pierce was immediately drawn to her. They became friends, and over time, their bond deepened. When her marriage ended, Pierce and Cassandra became inseparable. They married in 1980, and Pierce adopted her 2 children from her previous marriage. For Pierce, this was an act of choice, an act of love. He was determined to create the family he had never had. In Cassandra, he found someone who gave him roots, someone who made him feel like he belonged. For the first time in his life, Pierce Brosnan had a home, something stable, something real. The heartbreak of loss, Cassandra's battle with cancer. In 1987, Pierce's world was shattered when Cassandra was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Pierce was 34, and they had just had their son, Sean. The life they had built together, full of love, laughter, and the joy of a new family, was now overshadowed by an illness neither of them had the power to control. Pierce chose to step away from his career to be there for his wife. He supported her through her treatments, taking her to appointments, sitting beside her during the long hours of chemotherapy. His world became about Cassandra and their family. His career took a back seat, and his focus shifted entirely to caring for the woman he loved. He would later say that this period of his life taught him valuable lessons about what truly matters. The fame and success that once seemed so important were nothing compared to the love he had for Cassandra and their family. A shift in perspective. What really matters? Cassandra's death in 1991 marked a turning point in Pierce's life. He was forever changed by the experience of losing the love of his life and the mother of his children. The man who had once sought validation and recognition from the world now saw life through a different lens. He had learned, painfully, that the things that truly matter are not fame, wealth, or success, but love, connection, and family. Pierce had lost everything: his childhood, his mother, and his wife. But he had also gained a deep understanding of what it means to truly live. The lessons learned in those years would shape the man he would become, both as an actor and as a person. Pierce Brosnan, the man who had once felt invisible, had finally found his true sense of purpose and belonging. Becoming James Bond, the role that defined him. Pierce's journey from a boy who felt abandoned to the man who would play the iconic James Bond is a story of resilience and transformation. When the opportunity to play Bond came again, it was not just a career achievement, it was a personal triumph. Pierce had fought for the role, and when it was finally his, he took on the responsibility with a quiet, earned confidence. James Bond, with all his charisma and danger, was the perfect reflection of Pierce's own journey. The man who had learned to survive loss and abandonment now embodied the calm, collected hero the world had come to love. In many ways, Pierce Brosnan became James Bond because of everything he had endured, not despite it. The stillness, the confidence, and the vulnerability that defined him as an actor were born from a life of hardship, making him the perfect fit for the role.